So we're live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to committee members. Thanks for being on time for the meeting. Welcome staff and welcome to committee members. Thanks for being on time for the meeting. Welcome staff and technical difficulties. And I'll keep going and welcome to our ex officio of our committee, Mayor Pajot. Bienvenue, Gisette. Moving along, we have our agenda. Any changes to be made to the agenda by committee members? By staff? None. I need a motion to accept the agenda. Dave and Brad. And I omitted to welcome one committee member, Brad Parks. He's zooming in. So we have our full committee attending this meeting. So those that are all in favor of adopting the agenda, I presume, accepted. Thank you. Any disclosures? None. To Brad Parks, I can't see you. So if you want to speak or just cut in, please.
Okay, thank you. I'm in my car, so I'll leave the video off.
Okay. Adoption of the minutes of our last meeting, March 30th. You've had a chance to go over them. Any discussion on them? Any changes? The only thing I got out of them was that April 22nd will still be Earth Day this year. That we have it on our future agendas and not wait too long to start planning on it. So I need a mover to accept the minutes of our last meeting. Jennifer and Dean. In favor? Carried. Thank you. Items for discussion, 4.1. Sewer system user agreement. I believe Mark will speak to this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If the committee recalls, we had Aqua have a presentation of the yearly reports for the lagoon operations this spring. And at that time was identified that we had to start controlling some of the septic that was being accepted within our lagoons. So based on those conversations and internal discussions, the staff have come up with a revised draft agreement. In the past, we were in agreement with only one contractor. This would be an open contract to anybody who is licensed to haul septic to have access under the following conditions. So we're suggesting changing the term of the agreement to a one-year agreement. We have readjusted the fee to $9.99 per cubic meter plus applicable taxes. That'll be invoiced on a monthly basis. Part of the conditions is to only bring domestic sewage and wastewater from within the municipality of French River only. An initial assessment that was conducted, we were accepting about 1.5 million liters of septic. Almost 50% of that was from outside of our region. Okay, so having identified an issue with the lagoons, we had to start putting in measures to be able to address this, and this is part of the suggestions we're putting forth. The other difference is the contractor had full access to dispose of the septic 7 days a week at the lagoons at their convenience. In discussions with the manager, Kevin, we've decided to limit that to day hours, Monday to Friday, and also to coordinate an appointment with the Environmental Services Department to have somebody there present while they're removing the septic. Any emergency access outside of those hours will be a fee of $150. And that basically would cover a call in for an employee to be there to oversee the discharge of the septic. We're also requesting when they sign the agreement to provide proof of their licensing agreement, their insurance, and that they're responsible for any contamination that we can identify that is their responsibility. So those are some of the minor changes that we're making to trying to address things. On a bigger note, we've already had conversations with Aqua in the last month and a half. We are preparing to come back to this committee or the new committee with recommendations on how to deal with the sludge within the two cells. There's approximately a buildup of about 14.5 to 15% sludge. There's a new technology in terms of adding bacteria to eat the sludge at almost 100%. It's a little bit expensive, but much more efficient than actually doing the dredging and removal of the sludge. So that's coming in the near future in terms of recommendations to move forward with that type of program. So basically what we're asking for right now, if there's any questions addressing the revised lease agreement, it would also, currently we're accepting approximately $5,000 in revenues a year. By putting in this new fee structure, we could be seeing revenues about between $30,000 and $40,000, which will help address the new program for the sludge removal and the future maintenance of maintaining the sludge levels at an appropriate level. And then we're also on this note trying to estimate what the capacity is remaining within the lagoons. Anything to add, Kevin, Bob? So that's
Questions?
Cole's notes version.
Dean?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a kind of a peculiar question in item 2.8 here, where it reads, contractor shall provide the municipality with a written report detailing the volume of all domestic waste and wastewater discharged in the municipal sewer system and the performance of the system for that period. That's what I'm questioning. Just what does that mean?
So they have to provide us at the end of the year of the summary of everything and all the addresses of the usage of the lagoons, of what has been put into the lagoons. That's basically what that clause entails.
But it's just that one bit of the line that reads the performance of the system for that period. And I'm kind of curious what that refers to.
I think it would be the overall use of the discharge area in the system and how it performs.
Okay. All right, because I couldn't quite understand just what the contractor had to do with performance of the system.
The other thing too is what we've been running into in the past is by not having somebody there to direct them in which lagoons to dump in, we've had issues of the sludge being put into the wrong lagoons. And we've also had to upgrade some of those ramp areas at that point to handle that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Any other questions, comments? Yes, Brad.
Yeah, just one, excuse me, sorry, one quick question about the bacteria. Who's the company involved in that? I asked from a previous life experience, and that's why I just am curious.
Yeah, in working with our partners at Aqua, and there's been a test pilot that, and I don't know the exact name of the company, but they used lagoons in Manitoba, and they were successfully able to remove 90 to 95% of the sludge buildup this way. In terms of, it's about a year process before we can establish what our treatment capacities will be. because depending if we want 50% removal, 75% removal, or 100% removal will reflect on the cost of putting the program into place. The important thing to note is if committee and council approve this strategy, is going forward, we'd like to implement a yearly maintenance of the lagoons at the same time to prevent the sludge from building up in the future. For committee's information, I'm sure Dean, you would know this as well. I don't think we've ever determined that the sludge has been removed in these lagoons since they were put into place in the late 70s, early 80s. Yeah. There will be more information and a formal proposal brought back to committee with all that information. Just wanted to give you a heads up of where we're going.
Anything else from anybody? Yes, Mayor Peugeot.
What were we charging before? Now that we're charging $9.99, is that a huge increase for the contractors?
Basically, the way the agreement was structured with the sole contractor was based on 15 households, which represented approximately $5,000 a year, which was fairly way too low.
And they only service 15 households here?
No, it was based on the way they came up with the fee structure back in 2012, 13, somewhere around there. They estimated what the liters per household were on the system,
Right.
and identified that, okay, that's be sort of the equivalent of 15 houses, which the contractor was charged per year.
Okay. And so now, am I correct to understand that in order for them to have access now to the lagoons, they'll have to have somebody physically there, one of our staff members?
That's correct.
Okay, and now, right now, it's like well, I don't want to call it a free-for-all, but
They have a key to the gate and are able to go and come as they please at this point.
and have they all been, well, this contractor anyway, been aware that we're not going to be allowing waste from other?
I think there's been some
municipalities?
initial discussions that we are revising the contract and looking at these changes.
Sorry, one more question.
That's okay.
Sorry. So this, if it's approved here, then it goes to council for approval?
I would recommend that this contract be forwarded to the new council for
the new
consideration. To the
council.
new council for consideration.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just out of curiosity, just see if anybody has a quick idea of this. How many cubic meters in a 1,000-gallon tank? Anybody have an idea of that? If it was gallons, I don't know. Is it 4? So we were looking, yeah, well, that's not too bad then as far as the cost to pump it out then, say $10 really for, that'd be what, $45, $50 of the actual cost to, for the material that's taken out of a tank. I'm just looking at what it was going to cost people to get their tank pumped and delivered. And there's a fee now for putting it into here. And then the pilon or whoever's doing it has got to have money for that, the amount of material he's collecting too. And so,
From experience, too many mics. From experience, there was already a dumping fee
yeah.
that he would charge. So whatever the general cost is to empty plus the
Yeah.
dumping fee.
I mean, I just think it's important to keep it more as reasonable as possible. I'm not speaking for Mr. Pilon, but simply because if it gets really expensive, people put it off longer. You know, so.
In my initial research, through you, Mr. Chair, I've seen prices of $19.99 per cubic meter up to $32.99 a cubic meter, $29.99. And we thought $9.99 was something reasonable. Taking into consideration how we provide our fees, we're looking at, we actually, to treat those lagoons for pre-dumping, we're up to $12,000 to $15,000 per year in the chemical treatments to meet our levels before dumping. And we can attribute that large portion of that to the septic being dumped in the lagoons. And secondly, if we want to go to this maintenance of the bacteria, the initial costs I've been advised informally, we're looking at a project cost of about 100 to 125,000 initially, and then the yearly maintenance fee. And I think it's appropriate that the users that do dump their septic do contribute towards those operational costs.
Thank you. Dave, Councillor Dave, then.
So it is 9.99 like per cubic meter, right? Because I think the way it's written here, it's per cubic centimeter. Right, okay. Thanks.
Brad?
With respect to the bacteria being added to the wastewater in the ponds, would it be beneficial to go back to source, back to the original septic beds of the people who are, I'll use my own example. If the bacteria works in the septic out there, would it work in my septic? And could we reduce collectively waste in our own septic systems using the same technology or similar technology?
Through you, Mr. Chair, those are excellent questions, which I don't have the answer to. But certainly the professionals at Aqua will be here to present their information at one point in time. That's part of the discussions that we've had with them. We were hoping to be ready today, but it just, time restraints didn't make it happen.
Tim?
I just have a couple of, I suppose it's questions that they're sort of mild. So has there been engineering done in that lagoon from, let's say, original to where we are now and the usage, I'll say the fill rate, that's the right term. Thank you very much.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there was studies conducted in 2010, 2012. We did sonar investigations in 2016 or 17, 2017.
Yeah.
And now we're in the process of estimating where our capacities are with the current future potential development of the municipality as well. So we're on track of getting all that information.
Sorry, the spirit of it. Because they got to hear me out there. Thank you. Rookie again. Apologize. So that didn't throw me off. So relative to the performance of the contract, relative to the future usage of that, is there part of the program that's going to do sludge monitoring and show how well we're doing from the perspective of we're not doing enough or we're doing too much?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm assuming that'll be part of the yearly maintenance program that we're conducting if we embark on this new technology. And we also have the whole intent when we were supposed to redo the infrastructure of water and sewer was to install a station that we can monitor through meters. We do monitor through meters the households connected to the system. Now we're looking at monitoring manually at this point. And if ever we can get funding to implement our larger project, part of that was to establish a station with a proper, they call it a muffin muncher anyways, at another location other than the lagoons, and then they would have to hook up, which would also calculate all the liters at the same time.
The last one, how do you measure the volume that's going to come from our, say, a private contractor coming in, half a truck, a full truck? And is this considered a legal for trade type arrangement? Back to actually, in fact, exactly to your point about metering, does that have to be done?
Usually, we get detailed reports from the contractor on a yearly basis of the amount of liters they pick up, and they have the exact addresses of where they picked up. So there should be some internal process in terms of how they calculate the liters, of which we can verify what at the point of discharge with our employees present.
Thank you. Any other question? Are we in agreement that we're ready to send this contract to council? If so, I would need a mover and a seconder.
I'll move
Brad?
the,
Both Brad and Brad. Those in favor? Thank you, carried. 4.2 waste collection alternative and sorry, 4.2 waste collection alternatives. Kevin will be speaking to that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so tonight we're going to go through some of the waste collection alternatives that we have been working on for quite some time now. So going to go through a bit of the background. In 2019, J2PJ was hired to review the current waste management system. And October 2020, council referred the report and review of recommendations to the EAC. Spring 2021, the EAC made 5 motions to present to council, which were reflections of J2PJ's consulting. The first one was the removal of the 528 transfer site. The second was council approves for the waste transfer site at Public Works Yard to be closed during the landfill operation hours. Third was council directs staff to release an RFP for curbside recycling services for the urban areas within the municipality. 4, the council directs staff to increase monitoring at the Alban waste transfer sites on weekends and during peak usage. And finally, the 5th, council directs staff to research and report on financial considerations for the fencing and equipping of the Alban, Manettville, and Shaw Road waste transfer sites. Along with these changes to the waste collection operations of the municipality, there have also been provincial changes to Ontario Regulation 391-21 made under Resource Recovery and Circular Economy Act of 2016, which that's pretty much our funding that we get back every year for our recycling program. So it's all the guidelines that we have to follow for our blue box recycling programs. These new regulations are affect all components of the municipality's blue box recycling program, which is slated for transition to full producer responsibility in April of 2025. Four out of the 5 recommendations have been implemented to the current waste collection operations to date. The 5th direction to staff is to provide council with research and financial considerations for the fencing and equipment of the transfer sites in Alban, Manettville, and Shaw Road. Staff have also provided costs associated with required replacement of equipment that is aging and expiring, along with additional alternatives to waste management. These new provincial guidelines will mandate that all producers meet a maximum or 4% maximum contamination rate, as well as monitor all of our sites. So there will be no more unmanned sites if you want to get funding. All options that are presented reflect compliance with these new regulations. So the first option we have down is the current operation we are running, right? And I don't really need to go through the numbers, do we? Yeah. The bottom line is, yeah, it's pretty hefty, almost 1.8 million. And then the operating cost of 388,000 with 4 new part-time employees. This includes the operations of our second truck and the trucks we have, right? It also reflects 108,000 or 108.66 tons of contaminated recycling materials. 40% of our total tons collected. And we're gonna go off to option 2 would be modified sites with compactable bins. If in your package, I don't know if everybody looked at, there's 40-yard roll-off bins that have compactors on them. So this is what this is representing, are those 40-yard roll-off bins. And it would just be in Noelville and Alvin, 2 main sites. And that cost is over $1 million with projected annual operating costs of $238,000. And that includes 2 new part-time employees to monitor the sites because they have to be monitored in 2025. This option also eliminates Manettville and Shaw Road bin sites. Option 3 would be recycling curbside, all households, and modified transfer sites to household waste only. This is obviously a cheaper cost because we already have the equipment for this. It's not a long-term option, but it's something to get us through right now. And I know people are gonna ask about private roads, so this is why we've included sheds to put at the end of every private road. They'd be given a shed with a gravel pad, put it there. It would be their responsibility from then out, but they would be a shared shed where they could keep their materials for recycling, and the contractor would just go to the shed and pick it up as if it was the end of their driveway. Projected annual operating costs, 263. Still includes 2 part-time employees to monitor the site. And only the waste that brought into the transfer sites would be Noelville and Alvin. We're still playing with our capacity issues of the C of A because we're still over our C of A and Alvin, right? It'd be modified hours to those sites if we were to keep them. Reduce impact of waste to vehicles and staffing, obviously, because we're not running there all the time and they're closed more often. This option also eliminates Manettville and Shaw Road site. And then the 4th option is curbside recycling to all households and curbside garbage to all households. Yeah, so we would still have to get the sheds, and we would have to still invest in recycling bins for everyone else in the municipality. So there still is a cost to it to run it, to start it up. The operating cost is approximately $225. This option eliminates all transfer sites, so it would just be curbside. To our recommendations, the recycling pilot program consists of 40% of the municipality's households. Of that 40%, we only have a 40% participation rate, but that is 0 contamination in that recycling. So it's showing that curbside recycling is an effective solution to solve the contamination issue we are having. The recommendation from staff is to extend the curbside recycling program to the entire municipality in 2023. This will allow the municipality to hit the 4% targeted goal of our recyclables, provide a better level of service for residents, and to alleviate issues of the current transfer site, like capacity issues and staff cleanup. Converting all the current bins to household waste only with no recycling at those sites. It will provide council and staff time to implement a permanent solution for the municipal waste collection system in the years 2023 and 2024 to meet the 2025 deadline of the new regulations coming in. The municipality is going to need to implement a monitored, staffed and monitored by cameras transfer stations or curbside collections to have control over the waste management system we have now, with either proposed waste collection system, the municipality would be able to recover costs at the landfill site and properly divert recyclables, saving the lifespan of the landfill and effectively reach the mandated 4% targeted rate for recycling contamination by 2025. I'm sure there's a couple questions here, maybe.
Well, I thought there would be no questions. I think
No?
it's crystal clear. I will start off with Councillor Winborn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I took long and hard at these today and was absolutely frightened by some of the cost figures. And I made some notes, and just to be sure that I get them more clearly, I printed them out. So let me just have my say here. And after examining all the alternatives presented for future recycling and waste handling, I believe that it would be most cost effective to carefully further consider alternative 4 for our waste and recycling future. I'm sure that there would be many residents who would not agree for all the reasons that we are fully aware of. However, the municipality must give consideration to all the realities of our waste and recycling programs. The exhaustive study that was done for us by J2PG Consulting in 2019 provided several interim moves that we have partially followed up on. However, their final conclusions were that we would never be able to fully solve our waste management issues until we instituted full curbside pickup of garbage and recycling. As I look at all the projected costs for option 1, 2, and 3, I'm strongly of the opinion that we would probably be wasting a lot of money, and I'm just going to say read those as tax dollars, over a few years, and then finally be implementing option 4. Another reality that we presently have is that the fact that somewhere between 1,500 and 2,500 seasonal trailer sites in the municipality are presently using our current system and are adding a lot of both waste and recycling to our program while providing little or no direct revenue to the municipality to help with waste management costs. Option 4 would probably completely solve this issue in one way or another. We must realize that should we decide to recommend option 4 to council for implementation, that it would likely take a year or more to accomplish. However, we could probably make do with much of our existing equipment as we transition, plus the probable use of contractors to pick up recycling and then also garbage. Those are my comments to it, and everybody else I'm sure has had their look at this and will be ready to comment also, but I see little value in long term of spending hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars on something that we then scrap in a year or two. Just doesn't make sense to me. If we're going to look at curbside, let's get started.
Thank you, Councillor Winborn. I agree with you, although I really liked option 2 if it would be long-term, but spending that kind of money for 2 years at the most does not make sense. So I will accept other questions.
I agree with Dean. I think to me, option 4 would be, like you said, we're gonna have to go there by 2025. And like you said, it's not gonna happen overnight. We have the equipment to keep going for waste while we're transitioning, and I think that's the only way to go.
Thank you. I'm going to go around the table and I'll start with Brad Parks.
No, I agree with the comments I've heard so far. I think we need to go to curbside. It's the only way we're going to place it properly. I mean, every time I go to the all-alls, it's a disgusting mess usually from our visitors. So I think we need curbside, and let's move forward.
Thank you. Jennifer, any comments?
Same, I agree with what's already been said. Also agree with curbside.
One word, agreed.
I agree.
Now, if I understand correctly, we would be going to option Sorry, Mayor Pajot.
That's okay. I want people to reflect on this first, that 52.4% of our residents here are seasonal. That means 52.4% of our residents will not be able to have access to garbage on the weekends because they leave on Sundays or Mondays if it's a long weekend. And they will not have access to the landfill because of course the landfill is closed on Sundays and on long weekends as well, some of the time. And so before, this is such a huge decision to make. The last time that it came up, there was some assurance around the table amongst the councillors then, that may change, that the public would have a say in it, with figures being presented to them about the actual cost of having what they have or a modified version of what they have. But if you're going to take a service away of 52.4% of the population, I would suggest you think long and hard. I totally agree with, by the way, option 3. I think curbside pickup for recycling is a good thing. It doesn't, the success at 100% no contamination is amazing, which is then bringing our costs down at the landfill. But to do household curbside waste, people are, and I'm going to say it, are pigs and are not doing the right thing. We also had, prior to the introduction of the bin site, a whole bunch of problems with animals. And I tell you, the seasonal people, you need to be able to have an answer for them. So will they have curbside pickup on a Sunday or on a Monday morning? And so, because you can't take, and we know how much money we spend in environmental services. So you can't take a large part of that away from 52.4% of the population. And that's what we need to think about. And I think the public needs to have a say in it. And if you don't allow them to have a say, they're going to have a say in it anyway, and we'll all hear about it. But if we do this right, and maybe in a couple of years, that's where we go with option 4. However, these people need to be consulted, and there has to be solutions put forward even before the introduction or even going towards there, because we're looking at some very difficult times for all of us. So those are my comments. I think you need to reflect it. For tonight's purposes, I think that the staff is recommending option 3 for full recycling curbside, and people are asking for it. So I think that's a good sign. But the issue of going full curbside needs a lot more planning than just an idea and looking at the numbers. So I caution you. Those are my comments.
Thank you for your comments.
I just have one question though. So if we go curbside, well, not if, when we go curbside recycling for everybody, can people still bring their recycling at the landfill? Where will there be a spot for them, or it's only at the?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, Madam Mayor, there will be still a 40-yard bin at the landfill site to accommodate that, because there's still people that will want to use the site, and obviously need a spot for it. I would like to comment though on for people who, like 52% that are seasonal and won't be here. It would depend on our contract with whoever, if council did decide to go curbside, to work in what day of the week it would be picked up. But obviously, as you know, like the new waste management bylaw covers the curbside waste boxes. So that way you can be enclosed at the end of your driveway, ready for pickup. So just an idea for that.
I don't have a problem with enclosed, like what you're suggesting for the recycling for the private roads, but for people, the seasonal, I mean, we know raccoons are nasty. We know that bears get into some of the, into the boxes. So unless the municipality is prepared to supply everyone with bear-proof recycling bin, which I don't think we can ever afford that. I think the problem is still there. If it's just there overnight, then the odds of having it there, if right now, if it's, let's say it's picked up on a Tuesday and our people leave on a Sunday, the odds of having some problems are greater. So that's my only concern. And that's what I hear nonstop from the seasonal people. And again, they're the majority of the people that live here. So, or who are taxpayers. They already complain their taxes are too high, which I can't believe that. But anyway, we just need to have some good answers prior to even introducing the idea out there so that we can address that. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, Mayor Pajot. Mark?
Thank you through you, Mr. Chair. Not to get involved in a debate, that's not my job, because I'm not a politician, nor do I pretend to be. But however, I think the recommendation on the table is for committee to recommend to go to the full-blown household recycling, in that they start the investigation and preparation in the next year or two to come up with the alternative solution of the realities of curbside. That means a public consultation or survey of some kind. Those are certainly things that we can present to the new committee, but if direction could be given to investigate even further with more detailed information, I think if the proper numbers and proper information is presented, you know, we all pay taxes and we can see the numbers in front of our eyes right now. But I think that the goal is to meet the 2025, let's start with the recycling, 100% curbside, and then use the beginning of 2023 to start looking at the curbside garbage pickup based on the initial information presented by staff here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I have a few concerns, but Councillor Dean had his hand before I did. So go ahead.
I would like to comment a little bit along Mayor Pajot's comments, and I know that just exactly what she's talking about. But I think there are ways to address those issues with the seasonal people. And I think we should keep in mind that many of the seasonal people are not here just on weekends. They're here all summer long. Of that 52%, many of them are, I know right on our road, everybody's there the whole season. And so I don't think it's a problem for most of them. People who are just weekending and want to get rid of their garbage, it is something that we must look at how we could address that. And there are ways that we can do it. I can think of 2 or 3 alternatives myself, how we could make sure that ability is presented to people so they could see how we would do it. And I think when we're talking about this, that there is enough money to be saved if we start moving towards this, as opposed to buying trucks and bins and all the rest of it, that we could do anything with some of that money we're going to save. And we'll find ways, if it means that we need a contractor who does some household or curbside pickup on Sunday evening or Sunday afternoon or Monday morning, first thing. I mean, we can come up with that. And that's only for part of the year we can do that. I mean, there are alternative ways we can address that. But you are absolutely right that those people would be very concerned. We had a big public meeting on this very same issue. I don't know whether you attended that, but we had a huge turnout in the Alban Community Center when we were talking about curbside pickup, and it was mostly the people who are seasonal and were concerned about just what Mayor Pajot has brought up. But let's find a way to address it. We can do it, and the money that we could save by getting rid of a lot of the existing system that we have or are contemplating could well take care of any additional costs or ways of coming up to address any issues that we have. And the minute that we get into contracting this service all out, we're going to be saving money right away instead of buying $400,000 trucks that don't last very long anyway. I mean, and that's just one issue. I mean, I remember Kevin telling me if we replace all these bins in Albin, it's $1 million. Well, we don't need, I don't see the point of spending money that way when we can better serve our people and better make use of our landfill site with better recycling and everything by spending a few dollars and getting into the curbside. Let's figure out the problems. That's all. I'll go back to Kevin and say, Kevin, you put all this in here. Now we're going to tell you to come up with a way that we address those people who need help on this on weekends and that sort of thing. But let's move towards it. That's all I'm saying. Let's bring it to council as soon as we can and have a real good talk about it there. And the public will all be listening in and hearing on it. They'll comment, I'm sure. So, and if we want a public meeting, let's go with it, but let's go with a plan. So, okay, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry to take up that time. Go ahead.
You still had 2 seconds left there. I'll come back to your comments. I have two concerns and your question to Kevin. If there, once we go all recycling pickup, if there would be a way of bringing recycling to our dump site, I'm just scared that people would just keep doing the same thing they are now, and that 40% won't budge. Or do we plan on having someone there to overlook it?
Through you, Mr. Chair, are you concerned about like just participation in general? Like, because if you go through Albin, which is probably the town of Albin, which is the closest to any bin, and they probably have the best participation. And they could just run it up the hill with their garbage, but people are actually using it responsibly. So it is working. It's just, you're always gonna have people that are gonna try and buck the system. But
No, that was not quite my question. Contamination. If we still allow people on the off days from the pickup to bring their recyclables to the dump site.
oh yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, it's all inspected at the gate. Everything we get that comes in that's contaminated is all coming from our bin sites. It's not at the landfill site. So it's when the bins get emptied into those 40 yards, that's the problem.
Okay, thank you. My second part of my question is, if we and we have a lot of residents out there that just don't want to buy into recycling. So they just throw everything in the one black bag. So they'll be doing this in the meantime. So I truly believe we have to go full tilt garbage pickup with a limit of bags, then they'll be forced to recycle with an unlimited. I know we can't do this overnight, and we can't do both overnight. But the faster we do it, I think it's going to be beneficial to us. So those are my concerns. I'm going to come back to both of your, yes, I think if we need a public meeting, if 100 people show up, great. There might only be 10, but that's still great. But we do need a plan, say, listen, $1 million, almost $2 million to keep going the same way. And I'm sure through us and with through the knowledge of our staff, we can have a great plan out there. So that's it. I'm going to open it up to anyone else. Tim?
Thank you.
Mr.
In my background, I've been a seasonal cottager on Ash Bay. Pre-blue bins on Wolseley Bay Road. And I won't tell you it was inconvenient because we so much loved our weekends there. We would come back on a Monday evening or a Tuesday afternoon to bring our garbage to the landfill. So we could do that. I'm not suggesting that's the right approach, but that's what we did. The blue bins were brought out to Wolseley Bay Road, very close to the end of Ash Bay, very convenient. Magic. I loved it. It was fantastic. I read some of the costs about trucks and bins, and today I kind of understand what that cost. But from the perspective of a weekend cottager, Sunday afternoon, and we've had my wife's family, 28 people, right? They come for the long weekend on Tuesday. So come Sunday, we've got a lot of garbage. The blue bins solved that for us. It was fantastic. The getting to the landfill was very difficult. So, fast forward, blue bins were great. I'm now a full-time resident. I have no problem bringing my garbage to the landfill. It's actually closer than the bins for me. But whichever the facility, the service provided with bins and landfill on the schedule, it works fine. Recycling for me works fine. Where I'm going with this is, if I'm the community member, I'm very satisfied, but I understand there's a couple of voices out there that would not be as the meeting would present. My comment now, and I would solicit some response, some thinking, if the landfill was open on Sunday afternoon, and possibly not on Monday morning, or it kind of escapes me the actual schedule, but one of the half days, if I go back to my time on Wolseley Bay with no blue bins, no problem. I would have been happy to do it. So I kind of just throw that out there for consideration. I absolutely agree with Dean. $1 million of capital costs, we've got to stop doing that. It has to stop. Now, how do you accomplish that? Everybody's got to give something. If it was that old cottager, happy to take that drive and drop off a couple of bags and my recycling at that time. So anyway, that's really all I have to say, but hopefully that's the voice of some experience, the pre-bins with the bins, and then where we're headed, we're potentially no bins or some hybrid of. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Would someone like to comment on Tim's comment of opening up the dump site on Sunday morning?
Mr. Chair, it's Brad Parks.
Yes.
Could I make a friendly amendment to the staff recommendation? Could I
Go
amend
ahead.
it that staff review with other municipalities with a great deal of seasonal residents, that they review that with other municipalities and report back? I mean, I come from the Collingwood area, and the former, town of Blue Mountains would pick up garbage along the base of the mountain first thing Monday morning. And I mean, you want to see after Christmas, the amount of garbage from some of those chalets, it's astonishing. But that's how they dealt with it.
Okay, thank you for your comment, question. Can I ask?
And
Yes?
no, sorry, I said I was going to jump off for a few minutes. I have to get fuel.
Oh, okay.
Then I'll
Thank you,
jump-
Brad.
I'll jump back on when I'm done.
Can I ask for comment on that?
Do you want to go or you? So I'll jump in through you, Mr. Chair. I think it alludes back to the original recommendation that the committee recommend council consider full-blown implementation of recycling, and that the process for garbage curbside pickup be evaluated and studied and brought back with implementation recommendations or proposals for consideration going forward. I think somebody said it at the table. It's not something that's going to change overnight, but certainly if direction could be given to staff to start looking at the process and coming back with these alternative in different scenarios on how this can be implemented to address all the issues as best as we can for future consideration, with the view of trying to come up with some type of conclusion or implementation within the next year or year and a half or maximum 2 years. Does that make sense, Kevin?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, yes, it does, Mark. I would just like to add that no matter what we do, if council would like to continue to receive funds from these, all the sites will be fenced and manned. So if we want to continue receiving money from these programs, there's no more unmanned sites. That's just not a reality anymore. So it doesn't matter what happens. If we want to continue receiving these funds. These are the changes that we will have to make within the system. So it will be like from 2025 on, it has to be like, they have to be manned sites. There's no more unmanned. So
That's recycling, right?
for recycling,
Yeah.
for our recycling funds back.
But
Yes,
there are,
correct.
there are other attachments to that that may affect your funding. So
There's, yeah, quite a few other things. We're just trying to get a recommendation to alleviate the pressures on our current system and, you know, get our recycling to an appropriate contamination rate. That's what we're trying to get at tonight. So,
it's through you, Mr. Chair, if that's achieved, then by 2025, the producers or the new producers association will be responsible for the 100% of the curbside pickup contract, which is an expense that comes off the municipality's books.
I won't take much time, but I just wanted to bring an issue back to for your attention, and something that has really concerned me, and I think most of council, is the fact that we have so many seasonal trailer sites in this community, and they have no way now of getting any revenues from these people. They pay for their site to the owner of the site. The owner pays taxes only on his house and his land. That's all he pays. So we get nothing. And yet those people are extensively using the system we have now for particularly garbage. How much recycling they add, I don't know, but it's at the present time, it's going in the bins. I don't think we'll ever get to the point, or at least not foreseeably, of having curbside pickup for recycling at those seasonal trailer sites. But if we went to the curbside pickling, I see, at least in my mind, I see that both the property owner, the seasonal trailer site owner, is going to have to then handle this garbage and recycling through him, and he can pass the cost along, but we can get some kind of relief on this, and we can get more money from him out of it. But the way the system is now, it's just a liability. That's what it is as far as our waste management system is concerned, and all of those sites. And if we can get to a plan for curbside, both recycling and waste, we'll solve some of that problem too. And it's an extensive one and grows every one of these trailer sites just keeps expanding. It's just incredible. Right across the river from me now, they started with a few sites. There are over 100 trailers in that site, you know. It just anyway, I just wanted to bring that back in as an incentive for coming up with a plan. That's all. I'm not saying we got to do it tonight, but let's. If I was making a motion, I'd say, I'd like to bring this on to council and have council deal with it in terms of staff and developing a plan that will work. But we got to get out of this system we're in now, and we're not going to spend millions of dollars to stay in it. That just doesn't make any sense. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dean. Yes, Kevin?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd just like to comment on not all the trailer parks, because like I do see majority of the trailer parks, they do either have one of our bins or they haul to our landfill site, like the business owner does. Majority of them do. I'm not saying everyone does, but I know the ones you're referring to, and they do the correct thing. Like, so.
We still get garbage and no money.
But they.
Offset the cost of that.
Yes, I'm just saying that most of them do haul themselves and they're not individually going. I just wanted to point that out. So we're not picking on them.
Thank you. Tim?
Well, I've got two houseboats across from me in the bay that I've often said, are they paying any taxes? They're floating, but they're definitely using landfill. So that's on my mind. I won't go too deep into that because kind of it's in my picture window looking at the water as two houseboats kind of bugs me. But kind of back on the concept of rescheduling landfill services. Is it even a possibility? Is there a, how should I put it? I mean, without getting too deep into this meeting, is there a cost benefit? Is a cost to doing this? Where see the value as potentially restricting the use of certainly Noelville's transfer station on Sundays. I'm not saying you do that. If it wasn't open, I know where I'd be going to landfill. So there might be a couple of ways of looking at that, and I wonder if this could be something that could be implemented reasonably quickly and would start to take some load off those blue bins in the summer.
Response? No, yes.
I think through you, Mr. Chair, I think a lot of the ideas or suggestions that have been brought forward to the table are good. It opens up dialogue, and I'm happy to see that. And I think if the recommendation to council is to further investigate with proper analysis, as I think Brad Parks has mentioned, of other comparison to other municipalities in rural sectors, along with alternative solutions in terms of reevaluating the landfill operations, as Tim has mentioned. I think there's more research to do and more preparation to come back. But those are all good suggestions, and I would leave it up to the expertise of Kevin and his group to come up with those plans and investigations. But I think the directive that we need from this committee today is let's move forward and recommending the implementation of recycling. I think everybody's in agreement with that, and that we recommend to council or to the new council that they move forward to do the analysis, investigation, and reporting on curbside pickup. I think that's what everybody's saying. Am I misinterpreting?
No, I believe everyone is in agreement. Tim?
Yeah, thank you, Mark. I'm right on board. What I did not add to was Giselle's comments about 52% of the people we serve need to be addressed in this as well, and not to be forgotten. So, or not forgotten. So it's included in this solution. And I go back to my days on Ashby, and I did see the transition being really great. We don't want to leave really great. We want everybody to be happy, pay their taxes. Just a comment.
Thank you. I'm sure that staff will look into this, and they'll come back and tell us our for lack of a better word, our pickup artists for GFL that do our recycling, if they are available, willing and able, and at what cost. I'm sure we're not the only municipality that is asking them to work on weekends, or will ask them, but I'm sure they'll come back with a report on this. And I'm sure that when it goes to new council, there will be discussions there on an open forum for the public, and public will be made aware. We'll do our darn best to advertise it through our links, through you people. So if there's no more comments, is there? Yes.
So we get grants right now for recycling. Is that correct?
Through Mr. Chair, yes, every year we apply for it and we get money back. So
And what kind of percentage does it offset for our cost of recycling currently?
can I move the number? It's about 10.
Sorry.
Yeah.
80%?
Yeah, 80,000 a year.
Oh, 80,000. That's not 80%.
No,
Not even close.
was last year's around there.
Yeah. And my other question, it's more of a technical one. Like Dean, I really love the idea of, well, this is for the trailers, the people who use, could we not put a user fee of some kind to trailer parks? That's illegal too. I know.
They asked them back and they said,
Do whatever.
no. And then
No,
No?
good idea, but no.
Damn it.
I'll leave it there.
Okay,
I don't want to get into that discussion.
okay.
And I'll do a promotional tip here. First and foremost, the members of the public who has volunteered on this committee for the last 4 years. I really appreciate your involvement and your contributions. And I really hope to see your names resubmitted to see this project through in the next 4 years. There's my pitch.
Thank you, Mark. You stole my thunder. Anything else? Jennifer, you have been super quiet.
I do have one comment. I don't really know how to phrase it. I don't want to out anyone, any businesses or anything, but I'm a little bit jaded after the past year. I watched a business with our recycling poster and one of the recycling items that we had made for Earth Day. I watched them put all of their items like juice boxes and so on that would be recyclable into the garbage. I didn't say anything at the time because I was a little bit shocked and I'd been sort of processing all that, but I think that anything in the public sphere, like the arena, any concerts that we have, the library, anywhere where it's a public sphere, I think it would be, I don't know how exactly to do this, but it would be really important that that there are visible recycling bins, that the people running these events are promoting recycling, because then we can promote recycling to all of the people that are at these events or in these buildings. So I haven't been in the arena for a long time. I don't know if they have recycling bins. We haven't, with COVID, we haven't had a lot of events. We're starting to get back into it, but I still notice a lack of recycling bins and in some of these public spheres and a lack of usage. And I wonder if there's a way that we can set aside time where we can, work directly, have an actual direct conversation with some of these places in the community. I find that really disappointing, especially after, all the kids in my school were so gung-ho, and then they see, an adult in the community or as someone who's a public figure throwing the recycling in the garbage, and it just, I was thinking, why bother then? So sorry, I don't want to end it on a negative note, but that's just something I've been noticing in the last several years and this summer, and it's frustrating.
Thank you for your comment. That just, how could I put this? And you've said it before, it's education. And you said you don't want to end it on a negative note, so we'll just keep going till we hit a positive note. Councillor Dave.
I think just for what you were saying, I agree with you with the public places should have recycling bins and stuff, but just from observation where I have seen some in public areas, it's contaminated.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not like at home, they're not going to pick it up if it's not contaminated. When you go to the arena, there's a blue bin, people will put all kinds of stuff in there. So it's a good idea to promote the recycling, but can you control the contamination? That's the big issue that I've observed.
Okay, Jennifer, keep your comment because I want to end on positive. We'll bring this back on the round table. I would just like Michelle to read the motion we're recommending to council for our discussions.
Okay, so be it resolved that the Environmental Advisory Committee recommends to council option 3 of the waste collection alternatives, which is to extend the curbside recycling program to all households, and to modify the sites in 2023. And further, to investigate and provide analysis and reporting to council on curbside garbage collection.
Moved by
move.
Councillor Dave.
I'll second it. It's Brad Parks.
Brad Park seconds it. All in favor?
Could I speak? Motion?
Yes, you may.
I would like to see this recommendation be a little stronger in terms of not just investigating curbside waste curbside pickup, but that we aim towards that we want a plan developed on doing it, not just investigate it. Let's get to it. With the at the will of all the members of this committee, I'm just saying, let's not leave it weak. Let's not leave the resolution weak. Let's make the resolution be positive and look for answers.
Thank you for your comment. Did Michelle?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, I would like to recommend the change of Mr. Winborn's comments and modify the recommendation to say, and to further investigate curbside garbage collection, analysis, reporting, and the implementation.
Yeah, that would do it. Let's make sure council and the staff have got some orders, marching orders, that's all.
And this would be recommended to new council. First meeting in December, right? Okay. Moved as amended. And Brad, are you, Brad Parks, are you ready to second as amended?
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you. Those in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you.
I was just wondering how much it would cost to the resident. Or maybe we don't know that price, but yeah.
I don't think we have,
My niece has one. So the smaller ones are about not quite $200, and a small one for a family of four is too small. So you would have to go to the larger one, which is about $400.
Councillor Dave?
Yeah, like you say, like I was one of the ones that was looking at this at the conference, and I really like the idea. I don't know what the cost would be to residents and the municipality, but I'd like to pursue it to just see what that cost would be. I think it's a good idea to be able to just compost your food in a matter of, I forget how long it takes, but it doesn't take very long. And that's a lot of waste that's not going into our garbage. But like you said, right now we have a lot on our plate, but we definitely need to keep this in mind, I think.
Thank you. Mark?
Through you, Mr. Chair, if the committee feels strongly that this should be considered at a future date, I would suggest that you put it in the minutes that you refer it to the new committee for consideration in 2023.
So noted.
Mr. Chair, can I make a comment?
Yes, Brad, go ahead.
Yeah, I've looked at these myself for our own home, and the cost of the unit wasn't bad. It was the cost for the stuff you put in it was very expensive. It was about $45 a month from the one company I was looking at out of BC. So just if we could look at the operating cost as well.
Okay. Thank you. So, go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I'm on board. It was, I looked it up this weekend. It was like $500 for the larger unit. And you look at some of the reviews, it takes up a square foot on your counter, and my wife is going, that ain't happening here. But it was still a positive, and you know, because it is, it makes so much sense. I bring myself back to my first meeting, and I said, well, why aren't we doing composting on a municipality level? I know we've got our hands full with recycling and curbside and not curbside and blue bins and all that stuff, but the diversion of compostable material has to be 34, I mean, you guys smarter than me will tell you, 30–40% of landfill. Not only that, you end up with a kind of a cash crop. So I just wanted to make sure this stays in the conversation. And I understand logistics would be way over my head at what it takes. Kevin, you probably know you need acres and acres and vehicles and people and things. And if you have that experience, please comment briefly. I'm not putting you on the spot is what I'm saying, but I'd like to make sure that we say, or that if we say this is a positive approach, we're not neglecting it, we're actually suggesting it. And Dean's talking is $1 million capital, but totally on board. We don't want to spend $1 million on this unless it saves $1 million. I don't know how to do that math. I just Irish math, it's easy. But anyway, I'll leave it hanging there, but I did want to make sure that got put on the table. I think it's really important. The last time I spoke, I was speaking about my experience in Sudbury. I put more pounds out to composting than I did in landfill. So anyway, that's a positive spin. I'd appreciate some experience. That'd be great.
Thank you. So it will be noted in the minutes. And in the future is not tomorrow, but it could be next year. You want that as a motion? Moved by Tim, seconded by Dave. All in favor? Carried. Roundtable discussion, and I'll go back to Jennifer from a while ago. And I apologize, Jennifer. I wanted to clean up what we were in.
No, yes, that's okay. It was the wrong time. No, I was just gonna say, we need people to be invested into this. So for example, like I teach kindergarten and my 4- and 5-year-olds know how to recycle. They go and they rinse their pudding cup and they put it in the recycling. Like they know that the straw goes in the garbage. They know that the wrapper goes in the garbage and then the juice box goes in the recycling bin. But that's because we've talked about it. So I don't know how to, you can't force these things on people, but I don't know if, I just feel like any, like the library, any events that are promoted by the municipality, the schools, like these places for sure need to have not just recycling bins, but the adults, there needs to be someone in educating and invested in this. I mean, yeah, I don't know what more to say about that. I just, you're not going to get everyone on board, but we need to get more people, more adults on board that are in public spaces in our community.
Yeah, I
Somehow.
agree with you because at least if the bins are there and it's available, but it all comes back to education, because some people see a bin and they'll throw a pop can, or they'll throw a cigarette paper or a napkin, or they'll throw anything in there. And they won't, they don't bother. I know people, I've been talking to them about the recycling. Yeah, but it's so much easier just to put it in one bag and throw it in the garbage. And that's their mentality. And or people that don't want to rinse, or they say, well, okay, if we rinse, we're using water, so we're not helping the environment anymore. So that education, so.
I'd like to make a comment to Jennifer's points. But
Go
sorry,
ahead.
Mr. So I've worked in the kindergarten to 12 industry for 25 years, and I've worked the last 10 years in the university business. Recycling rates in schools used to be 10 years ago, used to be about 50%. However, as you went from elementary to secondary school, those numbers fell off drastically, because the older you get, you don't care as much. But I gotta say, at the post-secondary university level, recycling rates are less than 20%. People just don't care. That's the long and the short of it. Hate to say it, and it's my department that's out there trying to promote recycling. But people don't listen. As I see people in the university just chucking garbage everywhere, including the floor, people do not care. So I was a big believer and said, if we could get them at 3 years old, Jennifer, to your point, and we could train them at 3 and 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds in kindergarten, we had them for life. I'm starting to doubt that now. It's ignorance. It's just pure ignorance. And that's all I wanted to say. I'm seeing it, I'm living it, I'm breathing this daily. It just isn't working. The messaging just isn't working. And it's frustrating, because I know, Jennifer, the effort that's going in at the K-8 level. As soon as they get to the high school level, it's all gone, and I'm sure that's all hormones. But it's not getting better into post-secondary. That's it.
Thanks, Brad. But I'm gonna just go back to this summer to Canada Day, the celebration we had at Joe Chartrand Park. It wasn't all, it's not the recycling I'm going to talk about, but we gave toys, kids, some Canada Day stuff. And there wasn't one piece of garbage on the ground. We gave them juices, pops. They were knowledgeable enough that they had to put it in the bin. Now, if they put it in the right bin, I don't know. But at least they kept the place clean. So to me, I was saying, well, at least they're listening to something. And if there was a piece of garbage, somebody would walk along. I saw people just pick it up and they would throw it out. So education is going towards garbage recycling. And we did have recycling bins there at that event. Yeah, we did. Okay, it's almost 7:30. I'm going to give everyone one chance to for one comment or two. Then I'll be closing this thing up. Jennifer.
So just two quick things. Maybe we can look into the next year, some kind of competition, something with bribery, to get people in the community to become recycling heroes, or going on the PowerPoint that we created, be a recycling hero or recycling leaders, whatever. Maybe that could be something we could look into. And two, the other thing I was thinking about from the Canada Day, which was awesome. I love like all the concerts that we have. I think that's great that we have Joe Chartrand, that we're using that park. I'm just wondering too, when we create promotional materials from the municipality, if we can look at the plastic that we're looking at. So like there was these, they're really, I mean, they were cool. The plastic blow up swords, but those things last for 2 seconds, they break, and then they're in the garbage. So I'm just thinking too about the kinds of materials that come from the municipality, if we can look at the kind of plastic that we're creating in the first place as well. Because I mean, we're at the top of the recycling and reducing garbage creation is the municipality. So just in the future, it's just a thought that I had because my son got that and, it lasted 2 seconds and then it was in the garbage and it's not something we can recycle either. So that's it for me.
Thank you. One thing that I have noted in the past, and I've talked to various staff about this before, it really is kind of sad, I think, that we have to be selective in what we recycle and what we don't, being, based on whoever's business model, because I have thrown out so much plastic that has a recycle symbol on it. And I'm thinking, surely there's got to be a market somewhere. Perhaps the municipality could partner with other municipalities and maybe generate some kind of a market for it, or, collectively, maybe some solution could be found out about that where we can truly recycle everything. Because in Southern Ontario, I told my mother about all of this and she laughed and said, "Hey, we recycle this stuff. How come you guys don't?" So I'm thinking there's got to be somewhere, somehow, we can increase our recycling of stuff that we're throwing in the landfill right now. And I guess that's really the only comment that I've got.
Brad? Any comments?
No comments from me.
Thank you. Tim?
Yeah, just to follow up on Jennifer's comments, totally agree. I think we need some momentum, and I'm wondering if I'd be interested in it if there's an easy answer. Is there a vision or a statement made in the municipality about here's how we approach the environment and awareness, and I'm not picking the right words here, but we believe in all this stuff. Is it
Like a mission statement?
It is, and that would cover, we will use the most, the most appropriate materials. We will, I don't know what we'll do, but it would be a statement, and then it gets made to the decision makers. And part of my mandate now is to follow that rule. I got 2 more, but I'll just listen. If there's something to listen to.
I don't think we have anything of the sort.
Comment only then, and the other one is really about the categories of recycling that we do. I'm still amazed that was it you poke your finger through it, you can't recycle it? Michelle, was that how it went? Somebody said that once in plastic, and I not saying Sudbury's better because they're not, we're better, but they recycle almost everything. And I find we recycle not very much. That might be unfair because I don't do the analyses, but now I'm finding myself separating what I used to recycle, putting it in garbage, and that might be a positive consideration for diversion and being more appropriate in recycling. So again, interested to hear some response to that. The last one really is about when I started last year. It was about 8 months ago. We were all of a sudden we were into Earth Day in a really big way with no time. And in fact, even some of the comments came out where you can't do everything you want to do, so pick one thing you can do. Well, we're 7 months away from Earth Day, and it's not been brought to the table. We have no mandate in my mind from council, and understanding we're in this transition between years. But is Earth Day going to be important to this committee? We're going to be 6 weeks, 4 weeks before, and we're going to do the very best we can to do one small thing. So my encouragement is that this becomes a current event, but that's just my personal view. And the committee itself might not be the right place to, maybe there's room for a subcommittee, and I'm asking, I don't know if there's such a thing, but a subcommittee relative to Earth Day 2023, and council saying, here's what we'd like you to do. Yes, we really buy into this. Our vision, our mission says we want to do this, and give some of the people around the table and those who are interested an opportunity to.
Shine.
Thank you. And that's it.
Tim, I'm going to answer your last comment about Earth Day. I think we've already asked staff that make sure that it's on the agenda for our next meeting of the new committee. And that will be probably December-ish at some time, January. So we won't wait till day 4 before saying, hey, can you do this? And so we'll try to be more organized on that one. On your first 2 comments, I don't know if there's a response right now. They've been noted.
Through you, Mr. Chair, when 2025 hits, we don't really know what's gonna happen, but it's all on the producers of what they're going to accept. And I'd assume they're gonna accept more, but that's just an assumption. We don't know yet. So we don't really know. It's all getting handed over to them. Seems like that's the way, like, this is the way it's going to go. So we'll just be told then what we're gonna have. So. And as for, you said, Jennifer said bribing and stuff, that stuff works good. I would just like to suggest to the committee that, like, there's no need to rewrite the wheel. Like, every municipality, especially the big ones, have great programs that you can mimic. They'll even give you the information. They don't care. The work's done. They will forward it to you. So if you reach out to these places, I know one municipality runs a gold blue box program and they kill it. You put in a letter to the waste management department and they go around and audit you randomly. And if you have perfect, they'll drop off a gold blue box at the end of your driveway for you. And the whole survey starts going like, oh, I want that, right? It all feeds off. There's lots of good programs. It's just an example. So.
Thank you. Councillor Dean.
Well, I think I probably said enough tonight. I think I probably have more than said enough tonight. And so I'm not going to add much more. I guess I'll just summarize by saying this. When I read the 4 alternatives that we're looking at, I thought to myself, we just can't spend that kind of money on a program that's not going to last very long anyway. That we've got to be more forward thinking and we better do it now before we get. I know from talking to Kevin in the past that we're hidebound with trucks that need replacing and bins that need replacing. And I just can't see the point of spending millions of dollars on that and seeing us in a year or 2 saying, we're out of this. Then what do we do with all that stuff? Let's move as fast as we can towards a more permanent and cost-effective solution. So I'll just leave it with that.
Thank you. Councillor Dave.
I don't have anything else to add. Thanks.
There's Giselle.
A little less than 4 years ago, council created these committees. I'm sure Dean and Dave, you remember, people wondered whether or not having committees where the public's involved, imagine that, is a good thing. And it was one of my things that I hold near and dear, that I think the public is important on committees of council, to direct council. So your job is to come up with the ideas, come up with recommendations, working with staff for those recommendations, and then bringing them to council for action. And I think it's worked well. And I want to thank you, all of you, for putting your name forward and for doing the work. I know sometimes it feels like it may be thankless, but it is really truly appreciated. And I expect to see all your names again this coming December when council appoints committee members. So on behalf of council, thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you, Mark. Bob, Kev. Michelle. As for myself, I want to thank Echo Giselle. I want to thank the volunteers. Please feel welcome to to stay a few minutes, not all night because Mark's going to throw us out, but we can chit chat after. There's a few goodies. I would hope, like Giselle said, that you will be putting your names forward. I would like to invite you, I believe it's November 23rd at our inaugural meeting. It's open to the public and there'll be more advertising, more that will be coming out on that. So I would invite you all to that. And a big merci beaucoup to all of you. On that note, if there is nothing else, I would need a mover for adjournment. Tim and Dave. Thank you immensely.
Thanks for being here.